What makes a man a father? Is it the blood running through your vein, the name you carry, or the person who stays when life becomes impossible? Michael had everything he believed a man needed: a successful career, a loving wife, and a son he would protect with his life. For years, he called him his son, until one unexpected discovery forced him to question everything he knew. A secret from the past, a home torn apart, a child caught between the mistakes of adults, and a man who had to choose between his pain and his responsibility. Years later, one question remained: is the person who gives you life more important than the person who gives you love? This is a story of betrayal, sacrifice, forgiveness, and the difference between being a father and becoming a dad. Before we begin, do not forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Now let's begin. In the peaceful town of Abagba, people often admire the family of Michael and Amaka. To many people, they represent Sussex. Michael was a respected banker at one of the biggest financial institutions in the city. He was hardworking, disciplined, and known as a man who valued responsibility. Every morning, he wore his neatly pressed suit, carried his suitcase, and left home before sunrise. He was not born into wealth. Everything he had achieved came through years of sacrifice. He believed strongly in one thing: a man's greatest achievement was not the money he earned, but the family he built. His wife, Amaka, was a kind and gentle woman. She was loved by neighbors because of her compassion. She helped people whenever she could. She remembered birthdays. She checked on elderly neighbors. She was the type of person who believed that a small act of kindness could change someone's day. Together, Michael and Amaka had 3 children: Michael Jr., their first child; Emeka, their second son; and little Anda, their daughter. To everyone who knew them, they were a complete family: a successful husband, a loving wife, beautiful children, a promising future. But sometimes the biggest secrets hide inside the happiest looking homes. Before Amaka became Michael's wife, she had a different story. A story she rarely talked about. A story she had buried deep inside her heart. Before marriage, Amaka had loved a man named Daniel. Their relationship was intense. They had dreams. They believed they would build a future together. But life changed. Their relationship ended after several disagreements, and Amaka eventually met Michael. Michael was different from Daniel. He was stable. He was responsible. Amaka believed she could build a peaceful home with. Slowly, she allowed herself to love again. She moved forward, or at least she thought she had. Before her wedding to Michael, Amaka met Daniel one last time. She told herself it was only for closure, one final conversation, one final goodbye. But sometimes the moment people think they can control becomes the moment that changes their entire future. That meeting became a mistake Amaka regret almost immediately. Not long after, she discovered she was pregnant. The timing confused her. She and Michael had also been together around the same period. She had no reason to believe the child was not Michael's. When Michael Jr. was born, he looked like Michael. He carried his name. He carried Michael's smile. He had Michael's mannerisms. Nobody questioned anything, not even Amaka. She believed the past was behind her. She believed she had started a new life. And for years, that belief remained untouched. Michael loved Michael Jr. completely. From the moment he held him as a baby, he felt a connection unlike anything else. He attended school meetings. He celebrated birthdays. He taught him how to ride a bicycle. He stayed awake when he was sick. He proudly told people, "That is my son." And Michael Jr. believed it too. To him, Michael was not just his father, he was his hero, the man whose approval mattered most. But life has a way of revealing what people never expected. One afternoon, everything changed. Michael Jr. was playing football at school when he suddenly collapsed. His friends panicked. Teachers rushed him to the hospital. The doctor discovered he needed urgent treatment. Among the medical procedures required was a blood transfusion. When Michael arrived, he did not hesitate. "Take my blood," he said. "That is my son." The medical team began preparing. During the emergency testing, doctors noticed something unusual about Michael Jr.'s blood characteristics. It was not enough to prove anything, but it raised questions. The doctor explained carefully, "Michael, these results do not tell us anything. However, there are some findings that required further investigations." Michael frowned. "What kind of investigation is that?" The doctor paused. "A DNA test." The word felt strange, almost impossible. Michael laughed seriously. "A DNA test?" "Yes, it is only to confirm medical information." Michael agreed, because deep inside he believed there was nothing to discover. This was his son, the boy he raised, the boy who carried his name, the boy whose first steps he remembered. A week later, the result arrived. Michael sat beside Amaka in the doctor's office. The atmosphere felt unusually heavy. The doctor held the file. He looked at both of them before speaking. "Mr. Michael, the results are clear." Michael waited. "Michael Jr. is not your biological son." The word entered the room like a storm. For several seconds, nobody moved. Michael stared at the doctor. Then he looked at Amaka, his wife, the woman he trusted, the woman he had shared years of life with. "What did you say?" The doctor repeated it gently. But Michael already had him. The child he had loved, the child he had raised, the child who carried his name, was not connected to him by blood. The drive home that day felt longer than any journey Michael had ever taken. He said nothing. Amaka said nothing. Both of them were trapped inside their own thoughts. Michael was not only thinking about DNA results, he was thinking about many memories. The birthdays, the hugs, the sacrifice, every dad he had had. His heart struggles to accept that. His mind already knew. At home that night, Michael sat alone. Questions filled his head. Whose? How did this happen? How could I not know? But one question hurt more than all the others. Was the love I gave real? Amaka watched him from a distance. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to say, "I never wanted to deceive you," because she truly believed Michael Jr. was his. But how could she explain a truth she herself only discovered after years? How could she tell her husband that a mistake from before their marriage had followed them into the life they built? She was afraid of losing Michael, afraid of losing her family, afraid that one truth would destroy everything. And as Michael sat in silence, he reached his own peaceful conclusion. He believed his wife had been unfaithful. He believed the woman he trusted had hidden another man's child from him. The truth was more complicated, but pain rarely waits for explanations. And before the night ended, the family that looked perfect from outside had already begun to crack. Because sometimes the secret that destroys a family is not only the secret itself, it is the pain, misunderstanding, and silence that followed it. After the DNA result, the Michael family entered a season nobody could have imagined. The same house that once carried laughter became filled with silence. The same dining table where the family once ate together became a place where people avoided eye contact. Something invisible had entered the home, something heavier than anger, something called suspicion. Michael struggled to accept what had happened. He was not only dealing with the discovery that Michael Jr. was not his biological child, he was dealing with years of memories that suddenly felt confusing. He remembered carrying Michael Jr. as a baby. He remembered the first day he carried his son. He remembered calling him Junior, giving him his name. He remembered standing proudly during school events. He remembered every sacrifice. And now one question kept returning. Was I only a father because I believe he was my blood? That question tortured him because deep inside, another truth existed. He still loved Michael Jr. The DNA test has changed information. It has not erased years of attachment, but pain and pride created a battle inside him. His heart still saw a son. His mind kept reminding him of the result. Amaka noticed the changes. The man she married was still physically present, but emotionally, he was disappearing. One evening, she found him sitting alone in the living room. Michael. He did not answer. Please talk to me. After a long silence, he finally spoke. How long? Amaka became confused. How long what? How long did you know? Her heart sank. I did not know. Michael looked at her. You expect me to believe that? Yes. Her voice trembled. Because it is the truth. Michael stood up. How can a woman carry a child and not know who the father is? Amaka had no easy answer because the truth was painful and complicated. She had suspected something after remembering her final meeting with Daniel, but suspicion was not certainty. She had never believed Michael Jr. could belong to another man. The child looked like Michael. He behaved like Michael. The entire world believed he was Michael's son, including her. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of what? Afraid that if I told you about my past, I could lose everything. Michael looked away. And that was the beginning of the distance between them. The most painful part was that the children had done nothing wrong, but they became the ones carrying the consequences of an adult's mistake. Every time Amaka looked at Michael Jr., she saw the innocent child who carried the consequence of a decision made before he understood anything. He was not a mistake. He was not a betrayer. He was simply a child born into a complicated situation. But Michael was struggling to separate the child from the pain. Michael Jr. noticed. Children always notice when love changes. He noticed his father's shorter answers. He noticed the way Michael looked at him differently. He noticed the warmth disappearing. One evening, he approached him. Daddy, Dad, Michael stopped. That word once brought him happiness. Now it creates confusion. Yes, Michael Jr. hesitated. Are you angry with me? The answer shocked him. Why would I be angry with you? The boy looked down. Because of the test. For a moment, Michael wanted to pull him closer. He wanted to say, nothing has changed. But he was broken. And broken people sometimes hurt the people they still love. I need some time. That was all he said. Michael Jr. nodded. But those words stayed with him. Because to a child, I need some time can sound like, I don't know if I still want you. The truth about other children came later. Because Michael was desperate to understand everything, he requested DNA tests for Emeka and Ada. The result confirmed what he always suspected. Emeka was his biological son. Ada was his biological daughter. Only Michael Jr. was different. That discovery created a new pain. Because now Michael knew he had two children connected to him by blood, and one child connected to him by years. The child he loved first, the child who called him dad before anyone else. Instead of bringing clarity, the result made Michael even more confused. Some days he tried to convince himself that nothing had changed. Other days, anger returned. He worried. Was I deceived? Was my whole marriage built on a lie? Did anyone know except me? The question became heavier, and instead of dealing with the pain, he allowed it to control him. The man who once protected his family slowly became distant. The pressure affected him. The anger he had always struggled with became worse. Argument between him and Amaka became frequent. The home became filled with fear. Michael's pain did not excuse his action, but it explained the battle happening inside him. He was a man who felt betrayed, a man who did not know how to process the wound, and instead of seeking healing, he allowed the wound to become prison. Amaka suffered quietly. The pregnancy she once believed would bring happiness became another source of stress. The emotional pressure inside the home affected her deeply. The constant arguments, the fear, the loneliness, the fear that she was losing everything. Michael was becoming someone she barely recognized. The loving husband from years before was disappearing. One night, after another painful argument, Amaka sat alone. She placed her hand on her stomach. "I am sorry," she whispered. Not to Michael, not to Michael Jr., to her unborn child, because she feared the family her baby was entering was already broken. As the months passed, the situation became worse. The neighbors noticed. They heard raised voices. They saw Amaka becoming quieter. But many people did what society often does. They looked away. They told themselves it is their family matter. Until one night, the family matter became tragedy. Rain poured heavily over Ababa. The wind shook the windows. Thunder filled the sky. Inside the home, another argument began. The children stayed in their room. Michael Jr. closed his eyes. He hated hearing his parents fight. He hated feeling powerless. Suddenly, everything became quiet. When they heard a cry, not an angry cry, a fearful one, the children rushed out. Amaka had collapsed. The stress, complication of pregnancy, and the emotional suffering she had endured had taken a terrible toll. She was rushed to the hospital. Michael followed behind. For the first time in months, his anger disappeared. Fear replaced it. "Please save her," he whispered. The doctors fought. They fought for Amaka. They fought for the baby. But sometimes life gives people consequences they cannot undo. By morning, the family received devastating news. Amaka was gone. The baby was gone. The town mourned her death. People remembered her kindness, her generosity, her gentle spirit. After the funeral, Michael stood silently. For the first time, he understood something painful. He had spent so much time on focusing on the secret that he forgot the person carrying the pain. He had lost his wife, and his children had lost their mother. After Amaka's death, the children expected their father to hold them closer. Instead, Michael withdrew, not because he felt nothing, but because guilt, grief, and shame became too heavy. Michael Jr. reminded him of the secret. Emeka and Ada reminded him of the family he had failed to protect. He could not escape his own thoughts. Months later, Michael made another decision. He remarried. Many of the community were shocked. His children were still mourning the loss of their mother, and many wondered why he was already starting a new life. But Michael was tired, broken, and desperate to escape the pain of the past. He believed a new marriage would bring him peace. Unfortunately, his new wife never truly accepted Amaka's children, especially Michael Jr. To her, there were reminders of a life she did not want to be connected to. And Michael, emotionally exhausted and trapped between his new marriage and his past, failed to protect the children who needed him most. Instead of standing up for them, he made a decision that would change their lives forever. He took the children to the village and left them with one of his relatives. There was no proper plan, no clear arrangement of their future, no promise of when he would return. He simply left them behind and went back to the city to begin his new life with his wife. The children watched him leave, believing he would come back soon. But days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months, and slowly they realized the painful truth. The man who gave them life had walked away. Michael Jr. became responsible for protecting Emeka and Dada. He was still young, but life forced him to grow quickly. Some nights he slept hungry, so the younger children could eat. Some days they searched the market, hoping someone would show kindness. They had lost their mother. They had lost the home they knew, and now they were losing their father. One afternoon, beneath a large tree near the marketplace, a man stood and watched them. His name was Mr. Samuel. He was a carpenter. Not wealthy, not powerful, just a man trying to survive. He had a wife, 2 children, and a limited resources. But when he saw 3 children sharing a small piece of food while pretending they were not hungry, something inside him changed. That evening, Samuel returned home quietly. His wife noticed his expression. What happened? Samuel looked down. I saw 3 children today. She already understood. Samuel, we cannot save everyone. She said, I know. We are already struggling. I know. Silence filled the room. Then she asked, can you sleep peacefully knowing those children may be hungry tonight? Samuel looked toward the floor. After a long moment, he answered, no. His wife nodded. Then you already know what to do. The next morning, Samuel went searching for 3 children who had lost almost everything. He did not know their story could change his life. He did not know the world would one day call him something greater than a helper. He only knew one thing. Children should never have to beg for the love they were born to receive. Mr. Samuel never planned to become father of 3 additional children. He was already carrying his own responsibilities. He had a wife, 2 children, a small carpentry workshop, bills that never seemed to end. Life had taught him that kindness was beautiful, but kindness also required sacrifice. Yet, when he saw Michael Jr., Emeka, and Dada sitting under that tree, hungry and forgotten, he could not walk away. Some moments in life are not planned. They are simply placed in front of people as a test of their humanity. For Samuel, those 3 children were that test. The first day Samuel brought them home, they stood outside his small compound quietly. They did not run inside. They did not celebrate. They simply watched. Children who have experienced rejection learn to be careful. They learn that kindness can disappear. They learn that promises can be broken. Michael Jr., being the oldest, carried the responsibility of protecting the younger ones. He looked at Samuel carefully. Why are you doing this? Samuel understood the question. The children had already learned that most people wanted something in return. But Samuel smiled. Because you need help. That's all. Michael Jr. looked confused. He had expected another answer, a condition, a demand, something. But Samuel offered only kindness. Samuel's wife welcomed the children with mixed emotions. Not because she was cruel, because she understood reality. Their home was already small. Their money was already limited. Adding 3 children meant more food, more clothing, more school expenses, more responsibility. That night, after the children slept, she spoke honestly. Samuel, I love what you did. He looked at her. But, she sighed. But love does not make problems disappear. Samuel nodded. I know, my wife. We have 2 children already. I know. We are not rich. I know. She looked at him. Are you sure? Samuel remained silent because the truth was he was not completely sure. He was afraid. But sometimes doing the right thing does not mean you are not afraid. It means you choose what is right despite the fear. Finally, he answered, no, I am not sure. His wife looked surprised. But I know one thing. He looked toward the room where the children slept. If we send them away, where will they go? She became quiet because she knew the answer. Nowhere. Life after that was not easy. People loved the story of Samuel helping abandoned children, but they did not see the night when he struggled. They did not see him sitting alone calculating expenses. They did not see him wondering if he had taken on more than he could handle. His carpentry business was small. Some days he sold furniture. Some days he returned home without enough money. School fees became a constant challenge. Food became something they carefully planned. There were times Samuel reduced his own meal so the children would eat more. There were times he repaired old clothes instead of buying new ones. There were times he looked at his empty wallet and wondered how tomorrow would survive. One night after everyone slept, Samuel sat outside his workshop. The moonlight covered the small compound. His hands were tired from working all day. His back hurt. His mind was exhausted. For the first time, he allowed himself to ask the question he had been avoiding. Did I make a mistake? He looked around the compound. Inside were 5 children depending on him. 5 children with dreams. 3 children who had already experienced rejection. He loved them, but love did not remove hunger. Love did not pay school fees. Love did not stop exhaustion. He closed his eyes. Then another thought came. If I give up, what happened to them? He imagined Michael Jr. trying to raise Emeka and Ada alone. He imagined Ada crying for help. He imagined 3 children who had lost their mother, losing another person who chose them. Samuel opened his eyes. No, he whispered. I cannot do that. That night, he made a promise. Not a promise based on convenience, a promise based on commitment. I may not have everything, he said quietly, but I will never make them feel unwanted. As years passed, something beautiful happened. The children stopped feeling like guests. They became family. Samuel never treated them differently. He never introduced them as the children I adopted. He simply called them his children. At the dinner table, everyone ate together. At birthdays, everyone celebrated. When one child succeeded, everyone was proud. When one child struggles, everyone helped. Samuel taught them something important. Family is not only created by birth. Sometimes family is created by choice. Michael Jr. struggled the most. Unlike Emeka and Ada, he remembered everything. He remembered his mother. He remembered his old home. He remembered his father, Michael. And he remembered the day everything changed. For years, he carried a question inside him. Was I the reason my family broke apart? Samuel noticed his sadness. One evening, they sat together repairing a wooden chair. You are quiet today, Samuel asked. I am fine, Samuel smiled. People who say they are fine usually have something on their mind. Michael Jr. looked down. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Do you think my father stopped loving me because I was not his real son? Samuel put down the tool in his hand. No, but he changed because of me. Samuel shook his hand. Listen to me, my son. He looked directly at him. Children do not carry the responsibility of adult mistakes. Michael Jr. remained quiet. Your birth did not destroy your family, Samuel continued. People's choice did. Those words lifted a burden Michael Jr. had carried for years. When Emeka turned 14, another challenge arrived. One evening, he eventually collapsed. The family rushed him to the hospital, where doctors carried out several tests. The result was devastating. Emeka had a serious heart condition and needed surgery urgently. The cost was far beyond what Samuel could afford. The doctor explained everything carefully. How much time do we have? Samuel asked. The doctor gave him the detail. Samuel nodded. But fear filled his heart. He had faced hunger. He had faced hardship. But watching a child he had loved fight for his life was different. For the first time, he felt helpless. After thinking deeply, Samuel made a difficult decision. He would ask Michael for help. Not because he wanted anything from him, but because Emeka was his biological son. Perhaps he would put the past aside for the sake of his child. Samuel traveled to the city, Abakpa, to meet Michael. Michael, I need your help. Your son needs your help, he said. He needs heart surgery. Michael became quiet. The treatment is expensive, and I cannot do it alone. Please help save your son. Michael looked away. Your son? Samuel was surprised. Yes, your son. Michael shook his head. They are no longer my children. Samuel stared at him. What do you mean? I married their mother. I raised them because I believed they were mine. But their mother is gone now, and that connection is gone too. Samuel was hurt by this word. Michael, Emeka did nothing wrong. Whatever happened between you and Amaka, he is still your son. Michael remained silent. I am sorry, he finally said. But he offered no help. Samuel left with a heavy heart. Not because Michael rejected him, but because the child who carried his blood was rejected by the person who should have protected him. That night, Samuel sat beside Emeka's hospital bed. He held his hand and whispered, I promise I will never leave you. And once again, he prepared to fight for a child who was abandoned by the person who gave him life. That night, Samuel walked around his compound. He looked at everything he owned, his workshop, his tools, the small piece of land he had saved for years. That land was his dream. He wanted to build a better house, a legacy. His wife found him standing there. She already knew what he was thinking. Samuel, he turned. I have to do it. Tears filled her eyes. That land is everything you worked for. Samuel nodded. I know. Then why? He looked toward the room where Emeka rested. Because a dream can be rebuilt. His voice became emotional, but a child's life cannot. Samuel sold the land. The money paid for the surgery. The operation was successful. When Emeka opened his eyes, the first person he saw was Samuel. The old carpenter looked exhausted. His clothes were simple. His eyes were tired. But he smiled. Emeka stared at him. Why? Michael Jr. asked. Samuel looked confused. Why did you do this for us? Samuel smiled. Because you are my children. Those words changed everything. Not because they erased biology. They did not. But because they revealed something deeper. Love is not only what people feel. Love is what people do. As years passed, life continued to test their family. There were struggles, sacrifice, and difficult moments. But Samuel and his wife never gave up. They continued to provide love, guidance, and support, refusing to let the children feel like a burden. With time, the sacrifice paid off. Michael Jr. became a successful doctor. Emeka became an engineer. Ada built a thriving business. And the 5 children remained united as one family. The love and sacrifice that carried them through their hardest years had finally produced a beautiful reward. Together, the 5 children remained connected. Whenever people asked them what made their family strong, they always gave the same answer. We had someone who chose us. And there we are talking about Mr. Samuel, the man who did not give them their beginning, but gave them a future. The man who did not share their blood, but carried their burden. The man they proudly call Dad. Time moved forward. The children who once searched for food in the street became adults who carried responsibilities of their own. They built a new house, bought a new car for Mr. Samuel. The man who once struggled to survive had become the foundation of a family. But why Samuel's home became fuller and another man's life became emptier? Mr. Michael, the man who once had everything. The man who once believed he had built a perfect family. At 75 years old, Michael's life looked nothing like the future he imagined. The respected banker who once wore expensive suits and walked confidently into financial meetings was now a tired old man living quietly. Retirement had arrived. His health had declined. The energy that once carried him through long working hours had disappeared. The marriage he entered after Amaka's death had also ended. At first, he thought the new marriage would help him forget the pain. He thought a new beginning would erase old memories. But some wounds do not disappear because someone changed their surroundings. The marriage eventually collapsed. The money he had saved slowly reduced. The friends who once surrounded him became fewer, not because they hated him, because life moves on. And eventually, Michael was left alone with his thoughts. Loneliness is a powerful teacher. It removes distraction. It forces people to look at themselves. For years, Michael has carried one story in his mind, a story where he was the victim. Amaka betrayed him. Life treated him unfairly. But as the years passed, another truth became impossible to ignore. Yes, he had been hurt. Yes, the discovery of Michael Jr.'s biological truth had broken him. But what did he do after the pain arrived? That was the question he avoided, because pain explained his action, but it did not excuse them. Every morning, Michael sat outside his small apartment watching people pass. He saw fathers walking their children to school. He saw young men greeting their parents. He saw families laughing together. And every sight reminded him of the years he lost. Not years stolen from him, years he allowed to disappear. Sometimes he wondered, what would my life look like if I had chosen differently? But regret has one painful quality. It arrives when time has already moved. One afternoon, Michael visited a local restaurant. While waiting for his meal, he noticed a newspaper on the table. A family name caught his attention, Dr. Michael Jr. The article described his achievements as a respected medical professional. Michael stared at the photograph. The boy he once carried. The boy whose first step he witnessed. The boy who once called him dad. His eyes became wet. Then months later, he saw another article. Emeka was being celebrated for leading a major engineering project. Then he heard people in the community discussing Adag's successful business. Everywhere he turned, he heard their names. His children, the children he lost. At first, Michael told himself he wanted only one thing: to apologize, to say sorry, to accept responsibility. But deep inside, another desire existed. He wanted a place in their life. He wanted them to need him. He wanted the years to disappear. But time does not work that way. The first person he visited was Michael Jr. The meeting was unforgettable. Michael Jr. welcomed him respectfully. He offered him food. He asked about his health. But something was different. There was respect, but not the innocent closeness of a child and father. Michael felt it immediately. Finally, he asked, "Do you hate me?" Michael Jr. looked surprised. "No." "Then why do I feel like a stranger?" Michael Jr. remained silent for a moment. Then he answered, "Because when I needed you most, you were not there." Those words were painful, but they were not spoken with hatred. They were spoken with truth. Michael visited Emeka and Ada too. Their reaction were similar. They forgave him. They listened. They treated him with respect. But forgiveness did not erase history. They could forgive the man who hurt them, but they could not pretend he was present during moments when he was absent. A child remembers. They remember who attended school events, who stayed away during sickness, who had held their hands during difficult moments, who showed up. The hardest part of Michael was seeing Samuel. That almost made it worse. Samuel treated him with dignity. He never insulted him. He never reminded him of his failure. He simply continued loving the children. And Michael saw something painful. The children did not love Michael because he replaced him. They loved Samuel because he stayed despite not being their blood. One evening, Michael visited Samuel. The conversation happened quietly. No shouting, no anger. But two old men carried different parts of the same story. "I used to think you stole my children," Michael said. Samuel looked at him. "I never wanted your place. But they call you dad." Samuel nodded. "Yes." Michael looked away. "That should have been my name." Mr. Samuel was silent. Then he replied, "A name is not given because someone claimed it. It is given because someone earned it." Those words struck Michael deeply. Instead of accepting the truth, Michael made a decision that surprised the entire community. He took Samuel to court. He claimed Samuel had turned his children against him. The news spread quickly. People wanted to know the truth. 2 men, 1 family, 1 question. Who deserved the title of father? The courtroom was full. Michael stood before the judge. For the first time, he did not speak as an angry man. He spoke as a broken man. I lost my family. His voice trembled. I spent years believing everyone else was responsible, but I now understand something. The room became silent. The pain was real. He looked down. But my children's pain was real too. Then Samuel stood. The old carpenter walked slowly. His hands carried scars from decades of work. The judge looked at him. Mr. Samuel, did you ever try to replace Michael? Samuel shook his head. No, Your Honor. Then why did the children become closer to you? Samuel looked toward Michael Jr., Emeka, and Ada. Because children do not only remember who gave them life. He paused. They remember who protected them. The courtroom became silent. I never taught them to hate their father. He looked at Michael. I only gave them what every child deserves. What is that? The judge asked. Samuel answered. Love, protection, and someone who stays. Then the judge turned toward the children. Who do you consider your father? The room became completely silent. Ada stood first. The man who protected me when I was afraid. She looked at Samuel. The man who made me feel wanted. Emeka stood next. The man who sold his land to save my life. The man who paid my school fees. His voice shook. The man who believed in me. Finally, Michael Jr. stood. The child whose life started the entire conflict. He looked at Michael. Then he looked at Samuel. Tears filled his eyes. Michael gave me life. The courtroom became still. But Samuel gave me a life worth living. He took a deep breath. When I was hungry, he was there. When I was afraid, he was there. When I needed someone, he was there. We forgive you, but we cannot pretend you were there when you were not. Those words broke something inside Michael, because for the first time he understood. The battle was never between 2 men. It was between 2 choices. One man gave life, another man gave love, and both truths could still exist at the same time. Then Michael Jr. spoke the word nobody could ever forget. A father gave me my name and my first breath, he said. Tears filled his eyes. But a dad gave me love when I had nothing, hope when I was broken, and a hand to hold when everyone else let go. He turned towards Samuel. One was connected to me by blood. The other was connected to me by sacrifice. The courtroom became silent, and Michael finally understood the difference.